Assalamualaikum and a very good day to our lecturer, Dr. Muhammad Fajil bin Abdul Batau, and to all my classmates. Me and my group mates will present about foreign policy. Foreign policy is the mechanism national governments use to guide their diplomatic interactions and relationships with other countries. The foreign policy of a country shows what its values and goals are and helps it reach its political and economic goals in the world. Foreign policies are developed and influenced by a number of factors, including the country's circumstances in a number of areas, including geographically, financially, politically, and so on. Second, the behavior and foreign policies of other countries. And lastly, the plans for advancement, such as economic advancement or technological advancement. Human trafficking is the recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring, or receipt of people through force, fraud, or deception with the aim of exploiting them for profit. Traffickers might use the following methods to lure victims into trafficking situations, such as violence, manipulation, and false promises of well-paying jobs. Thailand has also become a popular destination for human traffickers. Human trafficking on boats happens frequently. Thailand's economy greatly benefits from the fishing sector, which is why numerous ships venture out to sea to catch fish. These boats occasionally disappear for a period of up to 3 years. Because of this, it is almost impossible for officials to keep an eye on boat activities. Thus, despite the risk it can pose to the victims of trafficking, many traffickers prefer to travel by the sea.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Filza Auni binti Bacha Azman and I am from Group AM22540. What is human trafficking? Human trafficking is a pressing problem that affects people of all races, social classes, genders, and demographics. Everyone is under threat and no one is safe from the threat of traffickers. Why it happened? Human traffickers are motivated by greed and lack a sense of compassion and empathy, so they prey upon the vulnerable and cause them mental and physical harm. Because Malaysia is a transit country, most migrant workers are likely to be the targets of human traffickers. Over the years, Sohakam has received numerous complaints about this issue, meaning that this issue has been ongoing for so many years but still yet to be solved. When the initiative started, the implementation of the National Anti-Trafficking Persons 3.0, also known as NAPTIC 3.0, which was launched in March 2001, is one of the most recent initiatives aimed at tackling this issue. It is a strategic blueprint outlining the Malaysian government's plan to fight against human trafficking over the next 5 years. Former Home Affairs Minister Hamzah Zainuddin believed that NAPTIC 3.0 and the amended Anti-Smuggling Act represent significant efforts to combat human trafficking and migrant smuggling more effectively, particularly with the reopening of the international borders. Unfortunately, this plan did not help Malaysia improve its performance in the US government's latest trafficking in person tip report, which kept Malaysia in Tier 3, the lowest rating in the report. It is commendable that the government is stepping up its effort through national plans, but the critical task now is to back this out with effective measures, strategic partnerships, and increased law enforcement as well as increased prosecutions and improved victim protection.
Assalamualaikum Sir Fajil and all my classmates. My name is Siti Roshada binti Azman and I will explain further about the human trafficking cases. So, I will explain the effect on human trafficking. Do you know that Malaysia have been ranked Tier 3 based on a US trafficking person TIP on report of 2022? Malaysia have been ranked Tier 3 based on their law on human trafficking, which are the Trafficking Victims Protection Act of 2000. US take 3 elements in evaluation to ranking each country. Firstly, prosecution and enforcement. Second, victim protection. And third, prevention. In the law of human trafficking, US will ranking the country with pre-ranking, which are Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. So basically, Tier 1 means government has acknowledged the existence of human trafficking and has made efforts to address the problem. Tier 2 mean government do not fully comply with minimum standards, but are making some efforts to bring their country into compliance with the standards. Tier 3 means government do not fully comply with the minimum standards and are not making significant efforts to eliminate the human trafficking. So as you can see, Malaysia have been ranked Tier 2 on 2018 until 2020 and dropped to Tier 3 rank on 2021 until now, 2022. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the government did not implement systematic SOPs to identify trafficking victims. And on 2022, Malaysia still remain on Tier 3 ranks. One of the reasons of Malaysia-Thailand case. As we know, the latest case on Malaysian people at Malaysia and Malaysian people that work at the Thailand have been kidnapped by the Thailand people. Even some of the people in Malaysia helps the terrorists to kidnap the Malaysian people. Because of some cases, Malaysia are remain in Tier 3 rank in TIP report. That's all from me. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Aimi Izzati binti Muhammad Subri. My matric number is 2022119219. Okay, now I want to explain about the Malaysian and South China Sea conflict. Malaysia is a new country that is developing that having main obligation to maintain national sovereignty in the security aspect. One conflict that continues to be Malaysian attention is the conflict that occurs in the South China Sea. The potential that exists in this international water through its strategic position and loaded with natural resources has causing access to it to be contested by various parties at once that put the South China Sea at the top of agenda national of the claimant countries. By direct legal mechanism reach an impasse in resolving the South China Sea conflict, this prolonged and multilateral has caused the practice of diplomacy becomes the main core that controls the dynamic of conflicts in the water. In this context, it will focus on the relationship Malaysia with China as the main superpower that has great influence in determining the dynamic of overlapping claims disputes at the water. This qualitative study will focus on the era Najib Razak administration, where he was seen dealing with the political atmosphere, which is different and more pressing at both the domestic level as well international compared to previous leadership. Among the incidents involving Malaysia and China are on 27 March 2013, the Beting Serupai invasion, and also in 2016 in the Beting Petinggi Ali invasion incident. In conclusion, it found that Malaysia-China relations are more holistic and two-way, taking into account the variables that occur at both domestic, international level, as well as is pragmatic to the nature of a small or medium country like Malaysia for place themselves in political affairs in the international level.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Wan Nur Fatihah binti Wan Hasairi, and today I would like to present about Malaysia foreign policy and the current issue and conflicts, which is South China Sea conflict. The first initiative that Malaysia taken is to make policy regarding this issue. This policy has focuses on two important elements, which the first one, protect the country's sovereignty by defend and assert the country's maritime claims. Malaysian maritime claims are based on international law as particularly set out under UNCLOS, which is United Nations Convention of the Law of the Sea. And also Malaysia has taken initiative by sending the Royal Malaysian Navy to continue, monitor and control the presence of Chinese Navy to ensure the safety of Malaysia and Malaysians. Maritime activity are one of Malaysia's economic sources. That's why it's important for Malaysia to protect its maritime sources. Lastly, to protect the country's territorial sovereignty under EEZ. EEZ is Exclusive Economic Zone. The second element is to promote peace and stability by insulate the country's valuable economic relationship with China. China has become the Malaysia's largest trade and investment partner. And to advance the country's economic interests, Malaysia has to prevent the maritime dispute from overshadowing the relationship. Mahathir on 2019 stated that in order to preserve valuable trade and investment ties with its largest partner, his government would avoid criticizing Beijing actions in the South China Sea dispute. Suggestion to the current policy and conflict is Malaysia take a neutral side. By taking a neutral side, Malaysia can avoid conflict and harm to other people and also harm to the country itself. Secondly, to make an appropriate negotiation with all the countries involved in South China Sea. And thirdly, to strengthen Malaysia-China relationship. And also to every country that involved so that the economic relationship can prevent from conflict and the South China Sea dispute. That's all from me. Thank you.
Next is why Malaysia refused to join Indo-Pacific policy is because of AUKUS. It is a new three-way strategic defense alliance between Australia, the UK and US, initially to build a class of nuclear-propelled submarines, but also to work together in the Indo-Pacific region, where the rise of China is seen as increasing threat and develop wider technologies. So, from considering the diplomatic and domestic debates that AUKUS has prompted, it seems timely for Malaysia to officially chart out its Indo-Pacific approach. This would also help to address the criticism that Malaysia is favoring one of the superpowers over the other. Malaysia's foreign and security policies acknowledge and attempt to deal with the emerging realities in the Indo-Pacific. So the question is, why hasn't Malaysia taken more concrete steps toward coming up with an explicitly Indo-Pacific policy? The reason for this is that AUKUS is viewed as a serious threat to the regional security equilibrium by Malaysia and other Southeast Asian countries. So, other Southeast Asian countries, including Malaysia, do not want to take the risk of promoting instability, which they believe will harm the regional economy. So, Malaysia, as an open and trade-dependent economy, will be among the most vulnerable. The response from Prime Minister Ismail Sabri Yaakob clearly highlight how serious Kuala Lumpur views AUKUS' potential impact on the region itself. So Malaysia fears that AUKUS and the nuclear submarine deal with Australia might lead to an arms race, while also provoking other powers in the region, for example China, to act more assertively. To conclude, foreign policy is one of the most important tools for the national governance as well as to the administration that available to the government, with their primary goal of safeguarding national interests and protecting the national sovereignty in all international interactions. For example, such as protecting national security to prevent human trafficking as well as the Indo-Pacific issues in Malaysia. That's all from us. Thank you.